Yeah, Terence Crawford, Shawn Porter fight is coming up. It's not 100% official yet. You know, the fight is not 100% official yet, but it's 90% done. So basically, and the projected fight date is, I believe it's November 20th. So Terence Crawford and Shawn Porter, the showdown is going down. I think on November 20th, and they still have to do the purse bid. They're still negotiating for the money. And from what I heard, the purse bid for the fight is going to be live on Facebook, I believe. So yeah, and after the purse bid, and we found out how much Terence Crawford's supposed to make in the fight, and Shawn Porter gets his amount of money he wants. After the purse bid, the fight becomes 100% official, and I was very excited to hear about this fight. This is an exciting matchup. Shawn Porter. Shawn Porter, he's an unorthodox boxer. You know, he throws punches at unorthodox, unfamiliar angles. And he throws a lot of them punches. He's an inside. He fights on the inside. He's always in your face, and he's always throwing unorthodox punches from like unfamiliar angles. And Shawn Porter, his last fight was like in 2019. I think he fought his last fight was against Errol Spence in the summer of 2019. I saw that fight live. Shawn Porter, he gave Errol Spence a hell of a fight. It was very close. I remember watching it, and I thought Errol Spence edged it out. But Shawn Porter was given was winning some rounds against Errol. He was punching Errol around. He got some good shots on Errol. Some heavy punches, and I rewatched the fight. We watched the Shawn Porter Errol Spence fight, and I thought it could actually have been a draw. It was very close, and if Shawn Porter can give Errol Spence a hard time, that shows you the skill level and the talent of Shawn Porter. Errol Spence is an A class. Errol Spence, and this was Errol Spence before the accident. Errol Spence, is an A level, A class level boxer. So Shawn Porter can fight toe to toe, neck and neck with an A level fighter like Spence, and that shows you how talented he is. You know, um, and we have to talk about Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford, he's a beast. Terence Crawford, he knocks out everybody he fights. His last fight, was against Kell Brook. He stopped Kell Brook like the fourth or fifth rounds. He stopped Kell Brook early, and Kell Brook isn't a punk. Kell Brook is a high level fighter. Even though Kell Brook, he took a couple years off before he fought. He took a couple years off before he fought Terence Crawford. But still, that doesn't take anything away from Kell Brook. He's still a high level fighter. Kell Brook, he went neck and neck with Triple G. Kell Brook, he went neck and neck with Errol Spence, and he's a high level fighter. So I give Terence Crawford his props for beating Kell Brook. You know, Terence Crawford, he also beat Amir Khan. He stopped Amir Khan. Terence Crawford, also, I think he fought the Mean Machine in 2019 or 2018. Terence Crawford stopped the Mean Machine. I mean, Terence Crawford has extreme punching power. He can knock anybody out. So, but who do I think is gonna win against Terence Crawford against Shawn Porter? Who do I think is gonna win for the 147 bouts? They're fighting at 147 pounds. Welterweight, and I think Terence Crawford is gonna give Shawn Porter that business. I think Terence Crawford is gonna knock out or stop Shawn Porter. Um, yeah, Terence Crawford, he just packs too much of a punch. Terence Crawford, he can knock anybody out. And Shawn Porter, Shawn Porter, he got knocked down by Errol Spence. You know, if Errol Spence can knock down Shawn Porter, then Terence Crawford could very well be able to knock out or stop Shawn Porter. Shawn Porter got knocked down by fucking Errol Spence, and Terence Crawford is a much stronger puncher than an Errol Spence. So I believe Terence Crawford is gonna knock out Shawn Porter. I think it's gonna be like probably a later round knockout or a later round stoppage, probably like in the 10th round, because Shawn Porter, he's not a punk. He'll hang in there for some rounds. He's in shape. He can take a punch, but I don't think he can take all these Terence Crawford punches. Terence Crawford's he packs hell of a punch. Terence Crawford, one of his flaws though is that Terence Crawford, he starts off slow. Um, Usually when Terence Crawford fights, he starts off slow. He starts off a bit defensive within his first few rounds. He'll probably take like 4 rounds to adjust and to be able to read his opponent and find out what his opponent is doing. He takes his first like 4 rounds studying his opponent and try to figure out his opponent. So he starts off slow. He doesn't start off just throwing a whole lot of punches within the first 3 or 4 rounds. So, but Shawn Porter is the opposite. Shawn Porter, he just 100% off the gate, throwing high levels of punches in the early rounds. So Shawn Porter, he might have a chance to do something against Terence Crawford if he starts off and throws volume punches within the first few rounds, because that's when Terence Crawford is usually on the defensive and not throwing a whole lot of punches. So, but if Shawn Porter doesn't dominate those first few rounds, then Terence Crawford, he's gonna just do him and not knock Shawn Porter out. You know, Usually Shawn Porter falls short. Against his against big names. Shawn Porter, he fell short against Keith Thurman. Shawn Porter, he fell short against Errol Spence. Shawn Porter, he fell short against Kell Brook. So Shawn Porter, he's always falling short, but he's a high level boxer though. But Terence Crawford is gonna knock the fuck out this motherfucking dude. I'm telling y'all, late round stoppage or late round knockout. It's gonna be entertaining. Shawn Porter is gonna give Terence Crawford a fight. Terence Crawford, he doesn't have the greatest record. As seen against Kell Brook, Terence Crawford can be hit. He could be hit, but Shawn Porter, he doesn't have the punching power to stop or do anything against Terence Crawford. So, and if it's a brawl, if Shawn Porter makes it a brawl, it's a wrap. If Shawn Porter makes it a brawl, then Terence Crawford, he punches too hard, man. He gonna knock Shawn Porter out. And if Shawn Porter or if Terence Crawford, if they make if it's a real boxing match of boxing IQ, then Terence Crawford's gonna win because he has more of an IQ than Shawn Porter. So Terence Crawford, he has a stronger, he has a more of a boxing Terence Crawford has more of a boxing IQ than Shawn Porter, and he punches harder than Shawn Porter. That's why I'm leading this fight towards Terence Crawford. I think Terence Crawford is going to win it out. But it's going to be a very interesting fight. And shit, after this fight, man, after Terence Crawford beats Shawn Porter, I want to see Terence Crawford go against Errol Spence. We've been waiting. We've been waiting for a few years, a couple years now. For Terence Crawford to fight Errol Spence. Errol Spence is currently injured with the eye injury, torn retina, or I think it's fully detached right now. But Errol Spence, he got his last fight canceled against Pacquiao because of eye injury, but he's supposed to be resting. He's supposed to be healing. So once that eye fully heals, he plans on fighting again, and he better fight Terence Crawford. Well, all right, you guys, man. Peace.